Let me tell you about a man standing in a shop holding two boxes. In his left hand is the sensible one. It does everything he needs. It's well made, it's reliable, and it's cheap. In his right hand is the other one. It does the same job, truly, almost exactly the same job, but it costs 3 times as much. He came in for the one on the left. He told himself on the way here that he was going to be smart about this. And yet, he keeps glancing at the one on the right. He picks it up. He puts it down. He picks it up again. And then he buys it. The expensive one. And here's the strangest part of all. Walking out of that shop, he doesn't feel foolish. He feels good. He feels right. Now, if you asked him why, he'd give you a tidy list of reasons. Better quality. It'll last longer. It's worth it in the long run. But every one of those reasons arrived after the decision was already made. They're not the reason he bought it. They're the story he told himself, to feel comfortable about a choice his heart had already made, somewhere he couldn't even see. So what actually happened in that moment? What is the real machinery turning, quietly, beneath every yes a human being has ever given? Last time I made you a promise. I promised that we'd step inside the human mind itself, to ask the one question that every business, every cause, and every relationship eventually depends on. Why do people buy? What truly makes a person say yes? Welcome back to Marketing Management Foundations. I'm Sadia Kibriya from Kotler Impact, here once more with the Azeemi Global Foundation. And today we go somewhere genuinely fascinating, into the place where decisions are really made. By the end of this talk, you'll understand that man in the shop better than he understands himself. And you'll understand yourself a little better too. Let's go inside. Here's the first thing we have to dismantle, because almost everything you've ever been taught quietly assumes it. We believe deep down, all of us, that we are rational creatures, that we weigh the facts, compare the options, and calmly choose the best one. We believe we decide with our heads. We don't. And this isn't an insult. It's one of the most important and best proven discoveries ever made about human beings. For decades, the scientists who study how the mind works have found the same thing over and over again. The vast majority of our decisions, including the big ones, the expensive ones, the ones we're proudest of, are made not by the slow, logical, calculating part of the mind, but by the fast, automatic, feeling part. Picture your mind as having 2 characters living inside it. One is a careful accountant, slow, effortful, brilliant with numbers, but easily tired. The other is something far older and faster. It doesn't count, it senses. It reads a room in an instant. It decides in the blink of an eye, long before the accountant has even opened his ledger. And here is the part that changes everything. It is not the accountant who's in charge. It's the fast, feeling one who makes the decision. And only afterwards does the slow, logical accountant step in. To explain it, to justify it, to write up the official reasons. We think the accountant is the boss. He's actually just the man who writes the press release, after the real decision has already been taken in a back room he was never even allowed to enter. Let me say this as plainly as I possibly can. If you remember one single sentence from today, make it this one. People decide with emotion and justify with logic. The heart says yes. The head just writes the receipt. Now you might resist this. You might be thinking, not me. I'm a careful person. And I believe you? You probably are. But careful and rational are not the same thing. So let me give you the proof that changed how scientists understand this entirely. There are rare and tragic cases of people who, through an injury to one specific part of the brain, lose their ability to feel emotion, while keeping their intelligence, their memory, and their logic completely intact. On paper, these should be the perfect decision makers. Pure reason. No messy feelings to cloud the judgment. So what happened to them? They became almost completely unable to decide anything at all. Faced with the simplest choice, which pen to use, which day to book an appointment, they would reason endlessly, list every advantage and disadvantage, and never, ever arrive at an answer. Without feeling, the choice never closes. Logic, it turns out, can compare the options forever, but it takes a feeling to finally say, this one. Sit with how profound that is. Emotion is not the enemy of a good decision. Emotion is what makes deciding possible at all. So when that man in the shop chose the expensive box, his feelings weren't getting in the way of a rational choice. His feelings were the choice. The reasons came afterward, like a polite assistant, quietly tidying the room after the guest has already gone. Now, to understand the feeling that drives a yes, we have to understand what sits underneath it. And here Professor Kotler hands us a tool so simple and so clarifying that once you have it, you will see it absolutely everywhere. He teaches us to separate three things that people confuse all the time: needs, wants, and demands. A need is a deep, basic requirement of being human. You need food, you need shelter, you need safety, connection, and respect. Nobody had to teach you to need these things. You were born needing them. They are universal. And this part is crucial. No marketer creates them. They were here long before any business ever existed. A want is what happens when a need passes through a particular person, a particular culture, a particular life. The need is hunger. But one person wants warm bread from the corner bakery. Another wants their grandmother's biryani. Another wants a burger. Same need underneath. Completely different wants on top. The need is universal. The want is personal. It's shaped by who you are, where you come from, and what you've grown to love. And a demand is simply a want, backed by the ability and the willingness to pay for it. I might want many beautiful things in this world. I demand only the few I can actually afford. Now here's why this matters so deeply, because it answers one of the oldest accusations ever thrown at marketing. People say, marketing creates needs. It makes people want things they don't really need. But look closely now, and you'll see that isn't quite true. Marketing doesn't create the need. The need was always there. What good marketing actually does is help shape a want, and then point to something that genuinely meets the need beneath it. The hunger was already yours. The marketer simply says, here, this might be the bread you were looking for. The danger, of course, and we will come back to this, is when marketing tries to inflame a want for something that doesn't serve the real need at all. That is exactly where serving ends and exploiting begins. Hold that thought. So if people don't buy on cold logic, and if every want sits on top of a deeper need, then let me ask you the real question of today. When a person buys something, what are they actually buying? Almost never the thing itself. Remember the drill from last time? Nobody wants the drill. They want the hole, the shelf, the finished home, the feeling of belonging. Today, we go further. Because beneath nearly every purchase a human being ever makes, they are reaching for one of a small handful of deeply human things. Sometimes they are buying identity, the feeling of becoming the person they long to be. The running shoes aren't about rubber and laces. They're about becoming someone who is fit, disciplined, alive. People don't just buy products. People buy better versions of themselves. Sometimes they are buying belonging, the quiet joy of being part of a group they admire. To wear what they wear, to carry what they carry, is to silently say, I am one of you. Sometimes they are buying status, to be seen, to be respected, to have their worth recognized by others. Sometimes they are buying safety and certainty, the deep relief of knowing they won't be hurt, won't be cheated, won't make a costly mistake. Sometimes they are buying time or ease, the precious gift of a problem simply going away. And sometimes, most beautifully of all, they are buying a feeling. Joy, comfort, nostalgia, love, the memory of being cared for. There is a famous map of human needs, drawn like a ladder, given to us by the psychologist Abraham Maslow. At the very bottom sit the most basic needs: food, water, safety. Above those, our need for love and belonging. Above that, esteem, to be respected, to matter. And at the very top, the need to become fully ourselves, to grow into our highest potential. And here is the quiet truth at the heart of marketing. Every single thing a person buys is an attempt to climb one rung higher on that ladder, to feel safer, to belong more, to matter more, to become more. So that man in the shop, he didn't buy the expensive box. He bought the feeling of being a person who chooses well. He bought himself a rung up the ladder, and to him, it was worth every coin. Now, there are two great engines that drive us up that ladder, and you must understand both. We move toward pleasure, yes, but far, far more powerfully, we move away from pain. This surprises people. We love to imagine ourselves as dreamers, chasing what we desire. But the scientists have shown again and again that the pain of losing something hurts us roughly twice as much as the joy of gaining that same thing pleases us. Losing 100 coins stings far more than finding 100 coins delights. We are, by our very wiring, creatures who protect far more fiercely than we pursue. This is why a person will happily ignore a vitamin that promises a slightly better tomorrow, but will rush out to buy the medicine that ends the pain they are feeling today. The pain is loud. The pain is now. Relief from pain feels urgent in a way that a distant, pleasant benefit almost never does. So if you truly want to understand why someone buys, don't only ask, what pleasure are they chasing? Ask the deeper question. What pain are they trying to escape? What fear are they trying to quiet? What worry is keeping them awake at night? The yes you're hoping for is very often not a reaching towards something better. It's a fleeing from something worse. Meet a person honestly, at the place of their pain, with real care, and you will understand their heart far better than the cleverest advertisement ever could. But even when the need is real, and the want is shaped, and the pain is sharp, there is still one final gate that every yes must pass through, and it's the one most people completely forget. Every single purchase, no matter how small, is a tiny leap of faith. Think about it. When you buy something, you give up something certain. Your money, which you know is real, right there in your hand, in exchange for something uncertain. A promise that this thing will do what it claims. Will the food be fresh? Will the medicine work? Will the person keep their word? In that little gap between paying and receiving lies a quiet, ancient feeling. Risk. The fear of being the fool who got it wrong. And so the final secret of why people buy is this. People say yes at the exact moment the feeling of trust finally grows larger than the feeling of risk. This is why one warm recommendation from a friend is worth more than the most expensive advertisement money can buy, because it shrinks the risk down to almost nothing. This is why a guarantee, a generous return policy, an honest reputation, a familiar and friendly face, all work like quiet magic, not because they add a single feature to the product, but because they take away fear. They make the leap feel safe. And now, do you see it? Travel all the way back to the very first talk, to the shopkeeper who knew your name and asked about your mother. Over years, with 1,000 small kindnesses, he built something his competitor never even tried to build. He built trust. He made every purchase in his shop a leap with no fear in it at all. That is why he wins. Not because his goods are any different, but because with him, saying yes is effortless. The risk is simply gone. Now I have to slow right down because what I have just handed you is power. And power always cuts both ways. If you understand that people decide with emotion, that they are driven by deep fears and longings, that they flee from pain and ache for belonging, you could use that understanding to serve people beautifully. Or you could use it to exploit them. You could manufacture a fear that was never there simply to sell the cure. You could prey on someone's loneliness, their insecurity, their quiet terror that they are not enough. This happens in the world. You have felt it. We all have. That hollow, slightly sick feeling after being sold something that fed on our weakness instead of meeting our need. So let me give you the line that should guide everything we ever do with this knowledge. We study why people buy, not to find the cracks in people, but to find the places where we can genuinely help them. The very same understanding that would let you manipulate a person is the understanding that lets you truly serve them. The difference is never in the knowledge itself. It is always only in the heart of the one who holds it. And this is the very soul of why the Azeemi Global Foundation and Kotler Impact give this knowledge away freely to everyone, with no doors and no jargon in the way. Because knowledge this powerful is far too important to be left only in the hands of those who would use it to take. The more good people who understand the human heart, the more good that gets done with it. And here, as always, is the warm little secret hiding underneath it all. You already do this. You read the human heart every single day of your life. When you comfort a grieving friend, you don't recite facts at them. You sense what they are feeling and you gently meet it. When you choose a gift for someone you love, you don't pick the most useful object. You pick the one that whispers, "I see you. I know exactly who you are." When you try to persuade someone you love to take better care of themselves, you don't win the argument with data and statistics. You reach softly for their fears and their hopes, because you know in your bones that that is where people actually live. You have always understood that human beings are ruled by their hearts and merely explained by their heads. You've just never used that deep understanding on purpose. In your work, for your idea, your shop, your cause. And that is all marketing is really asking of you, to take the human wisdom you already carry and to use it honestly and with care in order to serve. So let's gather it all up. We learned that we are not the cool, rational creatures we love to imagine, that we decide with emotion and justify with logic. The heart says yes, the head writes the receipt. We learned to separate needs from wants from demands. And we saw that marketing does not invent our needs. It shapes our wants and points us toward what might truly meet them. We learned that people almost never buy the thing itself. They buy identity, belonging, status, safety, ease, and feeling. They buy a better version of themselves, a rung up Maslow's ladder. We learned that we flee from pain even harder than we chase pleasure. And we learned the final gate of every decision. People say yes only when trust grows bigger than risk. So now, at long last, we understand the man in the shop. He didn't buy a box. He bought the quiet pride of being someone who chooses well. And he bought it from the option that, in that moment, his heart trusted the most. The reasons he gave were true enough, but they were only the receipt. His heart had already said yes. So here is your practice before we meet again. The very next time you buy something, anything at all, even something tiny, pause for one moment afterwards and ask yourself, honestly, what did I really just buy? What was the feeling underneath it? What was I reaching for or running from? Catch your own heart in the act. Because once you can see the true reasons behind your own choices, you will begin to see them behind everyone's. And that is the beginning of real understanding. In our next talk, we take everything we now know about the human heart and we put it to work. We unlock the 4 simple forces that quietly shape every offer ever made. The timeless tools that marketers call the 4 Ps. They sound technical. I promise you, they are anything but. Explained through everyday life, they are going to make the whole world click into place. If today gave you a new window into why people, including you, do the things they do, take the short quiz just below to seal it in. Subscribe so the next lesson finds its way to you. And I will see you in Talk 3. Thank you as always for spending this time with me. The human heart is the most interesting place in the entire world, and we have only just begun to explore it.